In this video, we're going to show you how to solve a system of equations by elimination. So there's several different ways to solve it. We have graphing, substitution, and now elimination. So a lot of times kids go, why? Why are you giving me so many different ways to solve the same kind of problem? Well, depending on what they give you, one way may be so much faster than a different way, and we're just trying to give you tools in your toolbox in order to be able to solve these systems. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to write those two equations down, one on top of each other, just as they look right there. And while you're doing that, this is a system. And I know this is a system because there are two equations. Two equations or more is a system of equations. All right? So when you're going to solve by elimination, I'm going to go ahead and write down your steps for you. And then if I'm going too fast, just pause and then write them down. So step one is we're going to multiply to make an opposite. We're going to multiply to make an opposite. Okay? Here's what I mean by an opposite. The opposite of a negative 2 is a positive 2. Those are not opposites. But over here, the opposite of a negative 2y is a positive 2y. So these right here are opposites. So I'm not going to have to multiply on this particular problem. So if you already have an opposite, then step 2 is we just add the equations together. We add the equations together. So I honestly just draw myself a little plus sign and a line, and I'm going to add it together. So you can think of this in one of two ways. Negative 2 plus negative 3, or you can think of it as negative 2 minus 3. It's the same thing, and that should give you a negative 5x. Negative 2 plus 2 is a 0. It just cancels out or eliminates. Equal sign comes down. Negative 6 minus 14 would be a negative 20. And then perfect. From right here, all I do is divide by negative 5. And x equals a positive 4. Done. So, I could have tried to solve the top equation for x or y, substitute it into the bottom equation, solve it all, and I would have gotten the exact same answer. But because it was written in this way, in this form, elimination was much simpler. But I'm still not done, because once I have my answer, step 3 is you plug in your answer. Plug in your answer to find the other variable. Plug in your answer to find the other variable. And you can plug it into any equation. It doesn't matter which one you use. So you can use the top or the bottom one. I'll go ahead and use the top one. So negative 2, but instead of x, I found the x value was 4. Minus 2y equals negative 6. Negative 2 times 4 would be negative 8. Then we add our 8. This is all just solving. Negative 2y equals positive 2. And we divide by negative 2, and I get negative 1. So I definitely did that pretty quickly. Pause to write down your stuff as you need to, but that's me solving. And then my answer as a point would be 4 comma negative 1, because x goes first and then y goes second. And there you go. So what I really want to reiterate though is I could have solved both of these equations for y and graphed them, and they would have crossed at 4, negative 1 on the graph. I could have done substitution and solved it, and I still would have gotten 4, negative 1, or I can do elimination. So 3 different ways. Okay, let's do another example again at that same level, and then I'll slowly increase how difficult it is. So let's look here. I have a system, because there's 2 equations, and I have an opposite. The opposite of negative 3 is a positive 3. So elimination is going to be the easiest. I'm going to go ahead and add it together. Negative 3 plus 3 goes away. Negative 1y plus 2y is a positive 1y, or just y. Equals, and then negative 15 plus 15 is 0. So a lot of kids there will be like, oh, it's no solution. No, it's just 0. 0 is a perfectly fine answer. Perfect. So now I have y. I have to go find x. So use any equation. I'll use the bottom equation now, because why not? Plus 2, but instead of y, the y value is 0, equals 15. 2 times 0 is just 0. It goes away. So 3x equals 15. And then you divide by 3 and x equals 5. As a point, that'd be 5 comma 0. So that one especially, you can see doing the elimination method is so much faster. If I had to solve it by substitution, that would be a lot more work. I could still get the right answer, but it's definitely more work. Okay, now what if there's not an opposite? So go ahead and write these two equations down, please. Pause if you need to. So again, I have two equations, so that means it's a system, but I do not have an opposite. The opposite of -8 would be a +8. The opposite of +18 would be a -18. So they're not opposites right now. So I can make an opposite through multiplication. And you can try to make your x's opposite, or you can try to make your y's opposite. On this one, I'm going to make the y's opposite. So the opposite of a +18 would be -18. So I already have the negative, that's good. But I need this 9 to become an 18. What can I multiply 9 by to get 18 is 2. I'm going to multiply the entire top equation by 2. So 2 times -x is -2x. 2 times -9 is -18y. Equals, and don't forget the last part, 2 times 11 is 22. Great job. Now I have an opposite. Opposite of +18 is this -18. So I add my equations together. -8 plus -2, or you can think of it as -8 minus 2 is -10x. The y's eliminate, they go away, equals -2 plus 22 would be a +20. Then we divide by -10, and x equals -2. Perfect. Great job. So I have my x value, fantastic. So now I need to go find my y value. You can plug it into either of the 3 equations I have now. Doesn't matter which one you use. I would always recommend using one of your originals just because the numbers tend to be lower, but it is your choice. So I'm going to go ahead and use the top equation. So the top equation says negative, and then x is -2, minus 9y equals 11. Well, a negative make a +2. Subtract my 2. -9y equals 9. Divide by -9. And y is -1. So as a point, my answer is -2, -1. Great job. Now, I could have gotten the x's opposite and multiplied and got the x's opposite and solved, but I still should have gotten the same answer at the very end. So many different ways and avenues that you can get to your solution. Okay? So let's try that again at the same level, and then we'll do one more that's the hardest, and then we'll be done. So write these two equations down, please. Again, I have a system, so I'm going to go ahead and do elimination on here, but I don't currently have an opposite. The opposite of a -8 would be a +8. The opposite of a +6 would be a -6. So I need to multiply to make an opposite. Since I made the y's opposite last time, I'm going to go ahead and make the x's opposite this time. The opposite of a -8 would be a +8. So I'm going to multiply this. First of all, I need it to become a positive, which means I need to multiply it by a negative number, because a negative times a negative is a positive. And then I'm going to multiply it by that -2, because 2 times 4 will give me 8. That right there, figuring out what to multiply for some of y'all is going to be the hardest part. Just figuring out what numbers I need to multiply. But practice will help you with that process. So I'm going to go ahead. Because I'm multiplying the bottom, what I do is I'm just going to rewrite the top just so they are stacked on top of each other. But some of y'all don't have to do that. Like, it makes sense in your head to not. -2 times -4 is a +8x. -2 times a +2 is a -4y. Equals -2 times 10 is a -20. Add them up. Those go away. 6y minus 4y is 2y. 26 minus 20 is 6. We divide by 2, and y equals 3. Perfection. And then, just for sake of time, I'm not going to go plug that back in, but I could go plug that in and find my x value. Okay? But just for sake of time, I'm not going to do that. All right, so this is our last example. Go ahead and write it down, please. So, here's why this is tricky. None of them are opposites right now. And I can't multiply 2 by anything to get to 3. I can't multiply 4 by anything to get to 6. So what this means is I'm going to have to multiply both of the equations. Okay? Now, I can make the x's opposite or the y's. It doesn't matter. Let's go ahead and make the x's opposite. So 3 and 2. What number can I multiply those by to get to the same number? And that would be, you could do 6, which is what I'm going to do. I could also do 12. I can multiply both of them to get to 12. There's several different options, but the lower your option is, just the lower the numbers are, which is nicer. So I can multiply 3 by 2. 3 times 2 will give me 6. And I can multiply 2 by 3. And 2 times 3 also gives me 6. However, if I do this right now, these are going to give me both a positive 6, and I need one of them to be a negative. So it doesn't matter which one, but one of them needs to be negative. That way you have an opposite. The opposite of a positive 6 being a negative 6. So now I'm going to multiply the entire top by 2. So that's 6x. 2 times negative 4 would be negative 8y equals 2 times 28 is 56. Negative 3 times 2x would be a negative 6x. Negative 3 times negative 6 is a positive 18y equals negative 3 times 22 is a negative 66. Add my equations together. Now I have a beautiful opposite that's going to go away. Negative 8 plus 18 is 10y. 56 minus 66 is negative 10. You divide by 10 there and you get negative 1. Great job. And then again, I'm not going to show you, but you could go plug in negative 1 to either of those 4 equations, although I would recommend using your originals to go find your x value. Okay? That's how you do elimination. Real quick, you do not need to write this down, but just to show you something that will happen. So just to show you, you don't have to write it down. So I already have an opposite here. So I go to add. X minus x eliminates. Great. But look, 4 minus 4 also eliminates. So I'm left with nothing on this side, which is 0, equals. And then 26 minus 26, well, that also eliminates. And so I'm left with nothing equals nothing. 0 equals 0. Is that true? Does 0 equal 0? Yes. So if that happens, this is infinite solutions. Or you could also write all real numbers, but it tends to be infinite solutions there. So basically, if everything cancels out, 0 equals 0, infinite solutions. On this one, though, just to show you, I already have an opposite. Negative 2 plus 2 cancels out. Love it. Negative 4 plus 4 also cancels out. So there's nothing left on that side. But 0 plus 6 is 6. Does 0 equal 6? Well, no. So this would be no solution. So that's possible. You don't need to write those down, but I wanted you to just see what would happen. Okay? So that's solving a system by elimination. You can do substitution, graphing, but sometimes elimination is much easier depending on what they give you. If you have any questions, just let your teacher know.